If you're having a hard time getting your child to eat anything besides peanut butter and jelly, then you'll benefit from our next guest's tips on feeding the picky eater. Joining me is dietitian Erin Palinski from the Vernon Nutrition Center. Hello there, how are you?
Good, how are you doing today?
Great, thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me.
So these are picky eaters.
Right.
We're trying to resolve these picky eaters that don't eat.
It's a difficult problem.
It can be. Now, would you say that picky eating is just a phase that children go through?
Most of the time, especially in younger children, they're trying to display their independence.
Okay.
But sometimes it can be more in relation to some environmental factors too.
Oh.
Actually, a lot of people don't realize, but if they're not exposed to foods at least 10 times, a lot of times they're not going to eat that food in an acceptable portion. So if the parent's exposing the child more to that new food, then they're more apt to eat it and be less picky.
Okay, so it really takes 10 exposures for a
Right.
child to get accustomed to a new food.
Exactly, which seems like a lot, but
Right.
the more they see it, the more they're apt to try it.
So that's encouraging to know. Just
Exactly.
keep putting it in front of them.
Right.
One,
right.
2, 3. That's good. And then, so is there a warning sign, like if they're, like when their growth rate slows down, is that another indicator that they might just stop eating as much?
Yeah, I mean, definitely appetite gets affected. So when you look at somebody that's a 1-year-old, they're tripling their birth weight. So they're going to be growing and have a really big appetite. When they hit 2 and 3, that rate of growth is slower.
Got
So
it.
sometimes they only need a bite or two and then they actually feel full. So it seems picky, but they're just self-regulating.
Okay, so don't be alarmed with that.
Right.
That's actually maybe a good thing, that they're self-regulating.
Exactly, yeah. They don't want to overeat either. So.
Right, and you don't want to push them into that either.
Exactly.
'Cause you
want
could
to
go the other way.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Now, are there specific reasons a child might refuse to eat, or at what point would I seek medical advice?
Sure. I mean, a lot of times, especially with the younger children, it's really their way of showing that they're independent, so
Okay.
they can say no, and walk away from it. Sometimes it's just that they're not hungry, so if you're trying to introduce new food, you want to do it when they're really feeling the most hungry. So maybe
Starving.
Exactly, right. Then they're going to try something because that's
All
it.
right.
But if you feel like all of a sudden their child's losing weight or their rate of growth has really just stopped, then you definitely want to see the pediatrician and see what's going on.
Okay, so other than that, no need for alarm.
Right, exactly. It's kind of normal.
It's kind of normal. They're just flexing their muscles.
Exactly.
No, no, no. Just getting used to that kind of
Definitely.
independence of it. And I really like your tip. You said feed them when they're starving.
Right.
The new food. Slip one in there.
Exactly, because
Okay.
even you or me, if we're not really that hungry, you're not going to try something that you maybe don't like. So.
Right. Good point. Now, how effective are multivitamins as a substitute for food? Is
Well,
that a
there are
good idea?
multivitamins like a great idea for anybody because no matter how healthy you eat, it's hard to get everything you need every day.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want to use it as a substitute, more as like an addition to a healthy diet.
Okay.
Because you don't get things like you don't get calories, you don't get protein from a multivitamin, you just get the vitamins.
Okay.
So if you're not substituting, your child could be losing weight or not growing adequately.
All right, so it's just a good thing to throw in there all the time, but
Right.
not something to substitute for a food.
Exactly. It doesn't replace food, but it's a great, combination.
And it'll get you all at least the vitamins and minerals you need in the day.
Exactly.
Okay, that's good. Now, what about some guidelines for the milk and juice thing? I know a lot of kids out there are just milk, juice, juice, juice.
Right.
What do we do with that?
Well, it's fine to have milk and juice. They definitely provide some nutrition and they're part of a healthy diet. But when you have a picky eater, if they're filling up on juice or milk right before a meal, they're really not going to eat very much, if at all. So I would try to limit it to no juice or milk at least an hour or two before a meal.
Okay, an hour or two.
Right.
So even if they're complaining that they're thirsty, I need some drinks.
Yeah, they can have like a little sip of water or
little
two,
water.
but even water, if they're doing too much too quickly, it just fills the stomach up and then they're not going to eat as much.
Okay. That's great. Now, would you say it's positive or negative to offer rewards, like watching TV, a movie, or dessert,
Sure.
to get them to eat the good foods?
It's actually more of a negative thing. It's more because when you look at that, the child's going to assume something's bad about that food if they're being offered a reward in order to eat it. So you really want to try to just keep food more neutral. You
Okay.
don't want to reward them so much for eating a food, but you also don't want to punish them for not eating a food either.
Okay, so keep it nice and neutral.
Right.
So, because would it basically they would start to associate that I need a reward in order to eat these foods?
Absolutely. Or they figure, like, say you're saying, oh, you'll get a cookie if you eat the broccoli. They're assuming, well, that's going to taste
Must be bad.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because I'm going to get the cookie if I eat this.
Right, right. And then they might have more of a desire for sweets because they're associating that as the reward food, too.
Right. So not a good idea to really ever get into.
Yeah, I would try not to.
I like that, and I agree with that too, for sure.
Sure.
You shouldn't really never associate rewards and food, kind of
Right.
ever.
Food, everybody has to eat food, and it's a good part. It's something that we enjoy, but you don't want to use it as a reward all the time because it could lead to opposite problems too.
Right. Exactly. Now, let's go through some of the tips that we get some of these picky eaters to
Sure.
get some food in there.
Absolutely.
Now, you said keeping it simple is like a really important tip.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you look at trying to expose a child, especially a young child, to a new food, if you put too much on their plate at once, or there's like 3 new foods at once, they're just going to be overwhelmed and step away.
Too much.
So a good tip is to try to say, take 2 foods they're already comfortable with, you know they enjoy, and on that plate put a little helping of that new food that you're trying to get them to try.
That's good. I like that. Right. The ones that they're very comfortable with, and then throw one of the new ones in.
So they don't feel too scared of it.
And they go, why don't you just try it?
Exactly.
Try it. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it, kind of thing. All right. Now, what about letting your child be involved? I really like that one. That probably would help a lot.
Yeah, well, sometimes they feel more part of the whole food preparation. They're more apt to eat that new food. So you could try taking them shopping, maybe even letting them pick out something they might want to try. But if they're old enough too, even like in the food prep, cutting it up, helping serve it, helping cook it, then they might be more willing to try it.
Because they're involved in the making of it.
Exactly.
So they're more excited about it. Okay, that's a great one. I like that.
Thanks.
Excellent. And being creative is also kind of part of that with the food thing.
Yeah, well, the more creative you can be and the more fun you can make it, the more, especially in young children, if you have more colors and shapes. So even you could take cookie cutters and cut up the vegetables into little shapes.
Right.
You know, give it fun names like cheesy trees for cheese and broccoli.
Okay.
You know,
so
like
get
that.
a little creative with that and make it interesting. So it's not your typical just carrots on a plate.
Exactly.
Kind of broccoli. I mean, slap that on the plate and there you go.
Right.
So be fun with it and be creative. I like that with the cookie cutter thing too.
Yeah, and they come out so cute, and then they want to try it just because it looks fun.
Yeah. And then allowing them to dip food is another thing like
especially toddlers. They really like to dip and to try new foods. So you could use something nutritious like a yogurt dip, you know, peanut butter, and all those things just add healthy calories to the meal.
Right. You know, it's funny you say that because my daughter does that too. She's a dipper as well.
Oh, okay.
And she does it in applesauce.
Oh, that's a great idea.
It's a great way to get that in there too.
She gets her fruit that way, right?
I like that. And you also say lead by example is really a good way.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're eating and the parent is a picky eater, the child's going to see that and just think that's normal and do the same. Whereas if you're eating a variety of foods and you're eating together as a family and exposing the child to that, over time they should start to be less picky
They'll be less picky, and that's good. I really like that leading by example. If you're willing to try new things, then your kids probably will too. I wonder if we have a lot of picky kids with the picky parents. You know, I wonder if that's what we're creating over here.
I could absolutely be.
Now, you also say staying calm is huge.
Yeah, I mean, really, when you look at, especially with a younger child, day to day, they might eat just peanut butter and jelly for 2 days straight and nothing else. But when you want to look at the big picture, look at the whole week of what they're eating, most kids in the course of a whole week are getting what they need.
Okay, so look at the whole week instead of a daily individual.
Right.
Okay, because they'll probably get what they need over the week.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's really good. And then don't like browbeat them or, you know, force them to eat it because that really isn't good either, right?
And it's more stressful too. If they feel like you're stressed because they're not eating and it's putting more stress on them, they're more going to turn away, or even the next time they see that food, they're going to feel stressed and not want it.
Right.
So just not saying much at all, just leaving it out. If they eat it, they eat it. If not, you could just try it again another time.
All right. And that's good too because it's never good to create anxiety with food.
Right.
I think either way we could do the under or overeating with creating a lot of stress around food.
Definitely, and then it makes mealtime less pleasant, and then they don't really want to try new foods either.
All right, so stay calm, everybody.
Right, exactly.
That's a good tip. Now you say including also nutritious snacks throughout the day is a great way to pepper in.
Well, when you think a child's stomach is smaller than that of an adult, so they really can't eat that much at a meal.
Yeah.
So if during the day, especially in a toddler, if they're more finger foods, you could try little nutritious snacks.
Okay.
And that way, at the end of the day, they're getting what they need anyway.
And I like that too because in that throughout the day, the snacking, you could do those little mini sandwiches that they've made, and they'll probably want to eat that throughout the day. That's nice. I like that. And then you can also substitute. You say, like, if they don't like certain things, do something else.
Right. Like, don't panic if you're serving a vegetable and they're just refusing to eat it. If they hate the broccoli but they love string beans, just give them that instead.
Get the string beans in there. Give them what they want.
Right. Right. You don't have to be like a short order cook, but just those simple little substitutions, and that way everybody's happy.
All right, good. Erin, thank you so much for these tips. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thanks.